Before we begin, I want to give a huge shout out to all of you because we've just hit 400 subscribers today. And so to everyone who, especially in these recent months, has been liking, commenting, otherwise just engaging with our stuff in general, thank you for your support. And of course, we are going to continue to work hard to give you high ball knowledge takes, which you cannot find otherwise on YouTube. That being said, after another match week of football that sees an increasingly inevitable Man City become the outright favorites in betting markets to win the Premier League yet again for the first time, we are back with another predictions video. Our scoring systems and scores from last week are on screen now, and just keep in mind that because the match week has technically not ended yet, our scores may still change slightly from now to next match week. But as of now, I have so far gotten 11 points this week. Swapno has so far gotten 7. And that means, one, this is my second week in a row getting more than 10 points. And this means for the first time in many months, I am leading the competition. Call me Pep Guardiola, the way I'm stealing these titles right at the end. It's inevitable, just like Manchester City.
Call you Liverpool, we could.
Call me Liverpool.
Games at the end.
Yeah. Call me the anti-Arsenal. But that being said, let's move to our first game of the week, and that is Brighton against Chelsea.
Yeah. Brighton, bit of a frustrating game for them, that last one, since they twice had to come from behind. But I think there was a lot for them to like there. What I was most interested in personally is the effects of Gomez going off injured. I think what we've seen from Hertzler this season is he's had a tendency to take the Mitoma-Minte pairing, which was used a lot last season, and split it up. Usually he starts when he's got Gomez on the other side. Even when Mitoma's been perfectly fit, which to be fair hasn't been all that often, but that is what Hertzler has tended to do. With Gomez now hurt, Brighton practically have to go Mitoma on the left, Minte on the right, and I think that might actually be for the best. We saw against Spurs...
Well, Mitoma's injured too, though.
Is he actually?
He got hurt.
Did he get injured in that?
Yeah, they had to end up playing like
shit!
I didn't think that was that
as a fullback. I didn't think that was that serious. Never mind.
It's bad.
Okay, that changes things a bit. Okay, Minte was good. I mean, I feel like Minte.
You know what? I'll let you make a one-time switch to your prediction if you want to. I mean, you don't have to say it now, but just mentally, because I haven't actually written my stuff on the document, so whatever.
Yeah,
you want to do is all good.
Minte caused him plenty of issues, I will say, when they had him switch to the right side, because originally it was him on the left, Gomez on the right. If Mitoma's not on the left, well, that's a bit of an issue now. You're saying they might need to bring DeKuyper in again? Now that
I don't know who else. Do they play like a Baleba or a Henshaw out wide? I mean, there are different ways, but it's going to be tough.
Like, I'll say, it was good when they were both on Minte and Mitoma. Direct threat on both wings, 1v1 danger. Would have been great against Chelsea, whose wingers would hardly track him, right? But, yeah, I'm just learning about that Mitoma's injury was actually that bad, because I thought it would just be that game. I would think if they could if their intent is to outscore Chelsea, basically, they could get it done with those two, but that's going to be a problem now. That might be an issue. Yeah.
I mean, maybe he would be back because this match is like right afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think you would want to risk it if you're Brighton. I mean, that was like the main problem for me. I think that crisis on the left side of the pitch is such a big deal. Or the right side. I mean, like you said, very shifty wingers, But anyways, that is obviously a big problem. But the other players on this team, there's a lot of strength here on the offense, right? You have Rutter, Welbeck, Minte. A lot of players have been picking up form as of recent, coming back to the form we saw at the beginning of the season. And especially given that this Brighton side, they are getting, like, their form is really coming back, especially recently. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about for this squad. Also, it should be said, Brighton, I feel like, do surprisingly well with their substitutes. I mean, we literally saw that with Mitoma in this match. He was substituted on, and the last-minute equalizer by Rutter was also a substitution. So I went and looked at this to see if I was just tripping balls or if there was something going on here. And apparently Brighton are tied with Arsenal for having the most goals this season in the Premier League from bench players, 11 each. So I feel like even if they do end up playing a fullback, you can never count them out. And especially when it comes to these midweek matches where you have to rotate inevitably, being able to have multiple players in every position they can rely on is such a huge benefit for Brighton.
Yeah. Well, a bit now concerned about Brighton's attack, but I will say one thing I know for certain: Chelsea's attack is bad, and I think they could well be bad again in this game. Everything they do feels harder than it should. This last United game was, for the most part, like I watched this the whole way through, and it was boring and it was frustrating. And I'm not even a Chelsea fan. They had lots of the ball, they had shots, they had decent XG, but most of that XG went into shots that either went unluckily off the post or were completely squandered. And most times, besides those few chances, you never felt any danger from Chelsea's attacks. Enzo came back, and that did help because he at least gave him some line-breaking passes, some forward intent. Now I'm not sure that he plays this next match. Even if he does, I think Minte plus the central mids could cause him lots of issues. Delap still looks short on confidence. We know Palmer and Neto have been below their best. Garnacho gave him very little as well, and I think Esteval could miss time here too. From what I saw last I checked, it was Enzo that might be injured and Esteval that seemed likely he was not going to play against Brighton. If he misses time too, that's another problem for me.
I'm hearing he might be out for the season.
The whole okay, the last 6 match days. Okay,
yeah.
This is tough.
Not like Chelsea need him to perform these last 6 matches. Not like Chelsea is in danger of not qualifying for the UCL or something.
I mean, it's like theoretically Chelsea has technical quality all across the roster, but it's just they're not creating great chances right now. And I think it's very unfortunate that they brought on Enzo and he was creating decent chances, and now he might be gone. And again, the ones they do make, they're not finishing. It is now 4 games in a row without scoring. For whatever shots they do take, it's just hard to trust many of them finding the net. It's so I have some concerns now about Brighton's attack. Chelsea is rough, man. This could be 0 goals from them potentially yet again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see where the goals come from. The fact that João Pedro is out, that is the killing blow, because he was the one guy for them who was at least contributing something offensively, and now there's nothing. Liam Delap, dog shit all season. Enzo Fernandez, slight purple patch when Liam Rosier first came into this roster, or I guess became the manager, and back when the Chelsea players still had a little bit of trust in him, that's gone completely. Cole Palmer, dog shit. Estevia out for the season means you have to play Alejandro Garnacho, the worst winger in the Premier League. Not very good. I mean, we just saw how trash he was against United, and he would be motivated to play well in that match because that's his old team. And I mean, Pedro Neto. I mean, the less said, the better, right? Absolutely negative ball IQ. He has no ability to make quick time decisions, and even the midfield for Chelsea, it's gotten worse a lot recently. I think Moises Caicedo was really that guy for them. He was the anchor holding it down. He has also, I'm not going to say he's bad, but he's regressed quite a bit in recent months, let's say the past 2 or 3 months. So I think Chelsea, they're starting to look really flat. It's starting to look more like the Chelsea we saw 2 or 3 years ago when they were still figuring things out and their strategy was to just sign 5,000 youth players. That strategy is really coming back to haunt them now. There is no leadership on the squad, besides maybe CoDaKrew, who's not been performing well recently. When they sort of get into this common syndrome that a lot of mid-table teams get into, quite honestly, which is once a few players start not performing up to standards, nobody is there to pick up the pace. There is no real difference maker on this Chelsea side, and because of that, like you said is a possibility. I don't see how Chelsea scores in this match, and even though Brighton are muzzled, I think they can do just enough and get a 1-0 win.
That is exactly what I have here. And I was questioning it if Mitoma is gone. But no, still 1-0 for me. I feel like someone can probably score here, and if it's going to be one team, it's going to be Brighton. It's like Chelsea were struggling enough as it is, and then they lost Esteval, and now Fernandez. I know it seemed like it might be a cramp, but if he's gone as well, then where is that goal coming from for Chelsea? So yeah, 1-0 for me as well.
Yeah, well then that brings us to our next match. 2 teams that are on better form. That would be Bournemouth up against Leeds.
Yeah. Between Arsenal and Newcastle, both away, Bournemouth have looked so settled in these big games lately. Confident in possession, aggressive in the transitions, very good about like when to push and when to stay patient. And I spoke like last episode about the struggles they've had keeping players, but even without some of the names that might have seemed essential a few months ago, this attacking structure still looks so complete. With Scott and Christie dictating games from midfield. You've got Ryan now for a great direct threat down the flank. Trufair, Jimenez offering so much energy from the back line. There's a real fluency across this Bournemouth team, almost as much, if not as much, as they had at the start of the season when they were doing so great with Semenyo on the team. My only issue is, holy shit, Evan Nilsson, what the hell were you doing this game? But besides him, the rest of Bournemouth all looked very sharp. There was some weird contrast there. I don't know why. But Bournemouth have got a good rhythm going across all 90 minutes of their games. The Leeds, of course, we know they bring the energy wherever they go, but I think Bournemouth can absolutely match them. We're going to see more great work from the Cherries here, I'm sure.
I think the orchestrator of this Bournemouth midfield, especially since we came back from the international break, but I would argue for the last month or two, we have to bring him up again. It's Alex Scott. Because even though he didn't get a direct goal contribution in this match, he was absolutely immense. Just like against Arsenal, he was finding spaces in behind, creating pockets, progressing the ball, and getting it to all of those potent attackers on this Bournemouth side. And against Newcastle, it was just too much for them to cope, and Bournemouth ended up getting, I think, a very, very deserved win. One thing that we have always said in favor of Bournemouth is that when their attackers are playing well, even when one of them slips up, like an Evan Nielsen, there are always others that can pick up the slack and score goals. But I would say that up until recently, a big problem with the side is that as defensively strong as they have been, there were periods where they really struggled to get the ball up to their attackers. And so they would rack up like 2xG in matches, but a lot of that was coming from midfielders and defenders. Again, a reason why I don't think XG can tell the whole story in a lot of matches. One other thing is we cannot discount how good this squad is defensively, right? They have been 13 games undefeated at this point. Like I said before, it's been over 3 months since they've lost a match, and even that was on penalties. And so maybe in the midweek, there's a little bit of a loosening of pressure, but I think what often happens is there's just less goals in a match, and I think that sort of environment favors Bournemouth, especially at home.
Which is interesting because, again, at the start of the season, they were the team that's like, we're going to go out and we'll try our best to score more than you. But they've adapted, I think, and they can still absolutely score whatever they need to. But the defense is, like you said, a lot better right now. And the fullbacks are like, they're being aggressive, but they still defend well. That's great. As for Leeds, like Bournemouth, I think we're going to see they should be coming in with massive confidence from these latest games. Beating United at Old Trafford, and then, as expected, they beat Wolves, but did it thoroughly too. There is, of course, Okafor is the obvious like headline attraction here, but there is lots of credit to go around for this team. For the guys collectively pushing on through their games. They're not settling for like draws or maybe 1-goal wins like they might have earlier in the season. You had like Aronson with some great runs and crosses. Calvert-Lewin the whole time is making life miserable for defenders. James Justin even, of course with his goal, but also key coverage and clearances throughout. Everyone is bringing the energy, which only lifts everyone up even more collectively. And again, these guys are no longer trudging into games and they're like aiming for 1 point. Can they go out and outscore Bournemouth? Maybe not, but I'm sure they are going to try. And if they all believe that they can get it done, then really it is no longer out of the question. If we've got a team of 11 players that's like, we can outscore Bournemouth, I think they can make it. They can get it done.
Awesome. I mean, listen, you don't have to tell me about James Justin. There were parts of last season at Leicester when he was the only guy contributing anything to us offensively. And thankfully, he got out of the hellscape that is Leicester City pretty soon because my team is basically confirmed relegated to League One at this point. It's quite depressing. We don't like to talk about it too much on this channel. That being said, though, yeah, Leeds' offense so much better. We've talked about how good they are at overloading in the midfield, and it has given them a lot of advantage in recent months. But you have to give a lot of credit to Daniel Farke for continually evolving his tactics. Switching to the 3-5-2 in around December, I think was when it was. That was an evolution in and of itself, and it made them a lot stronger in the midfield. I would say recently we had seen Leeds become a lot better on the flanks. The one issue with becoming better on the flanks, though, is that requires a lot of work from your fullbacks. They have to bomb up and down the pitch. It's sort of a similar issue to what we see with Crystal Palace at times, especially in the midweeks. And so with them having to play a game pretty soon after this week, I don't know if they're going to be able to cope with all of that pressure, especially pressure that Bournemouth is giving them. But I do agree, they have become a lot more clinical finishing-wise recently, and I think if there's one player who we have to credit that for, it is the fox in the box. It is Noah Okafor. He has become a lot more clinical recently. He has now 7 goals in the Premier League from less than 5 XG. And I think whenever you get half chances, scrambles in the box, balls being put in the mixer, having someone like him on that squad who he has the ball IQ. He's almost like Inzaghi sort of half striker or false 9 sort of role. That's such a big help to this Leeds side. And so I'll just say my prediction. I don't think Leeds can win this match because as good as they are, I don't see how they can be the team that can stop a 13-game undefeated streak from Bournemouth. And I do think Bournemouth can win. But because of, if not Noah Okafor, like he really just unlocks the entire offense. A Dominic Calvert-Lewin I could see scoring. Like anyone I feel like on this team has a chance if you give them opportunities. A Brendan Aronson as well. And so even though I have Bournemouth winning, I'm going to say 2-1.
That is also what I have. I think Leeds are, again, they're going to make this very...
if you keep copying me, I'm going to win.
I'm aware that's the case, yes. I think, it's again DCL and Okafor that are going to make this very uncomfortable throughout. But I just think Bournemouth, to me, they've got more control in midfield. They've got fewer like obvious dips in games. I feel like they're more consistent across the whole 90. And they're at home. So if like that has to be taken as an advantage, the like final deciding factor that is there for them as well. So I'll say they edge out the key moments and they get a 2-1. Though I could absolutely see a draw. It's just, I agree with you. If anyone is going to break this amazing streak that Bournemouth is on, it's not going to be Leeds visiting Bournemouth. Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, this gives us an opportunity to talk about, the match probably of the season, I have to say, with the title intentions. Burnley, who are, relegated, whatever, throw them out the wayside. And a Man City side, which, as I said in the intro, now look like the favorites to win the Premier League after being behind all season.
Yeah, I'll speak on Burnley just quickly. I've ragged on them a bit lately, but I was quite surprised to see that they actually went out and scored the first goal here against Forest, in the first half at least. From what I've seen, usually when they score first, like they did against Fulham a few weeks ago, it's after like a relatively eventless first half. But they went more out of their way here, so props to them for that. Besides that goal, though, pretty much what I expected from them. They hung in there, had half the possession actually, but ultimately they offered almost nothing. It was 4 shots, barely any XG, 1 big chance, which was their goal. And once Forest finally got momentum in the second half, there was no answer from Burnley. They didn't create enough to put pressure on the opponent, so eventually all the pressure goes against them instead. And unfortunately for them, City is maybe the worst possible opponent to just absorb pressure against. So I'm just going to say it now, it's a City win for me. I'll give my scoreline at the end, but I don't.
City are, of course. I think it's pretty much a given, honestly, that City are going to win every match for the rest of the season. For Arsenal, the only way they can survive at this point is you win on goal differential, and goal differential. That's I think Arsenal. No, I think City are ahead on goal differential by 1 goal.
I think it's Arsenal ahead. I think by 1 goal. I'll check to be sure.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. It is Arsenal ahead, but City
again,
do have the game in hand.
City game in hand is definitely helping.
So. Yeah. I think there's a real chance. There's a very significant chance the season goes down to goal differential, which would be, that is the ultimate bottle for Arsenal. Yeah, that's how they end up losing. I want to talk a little bit about that City match though, which we will talk about it from Arsenal's POV when we get there. But about City first, I said this in a few servers that I'm in. When we look back at the arc of the season, and if City do end up actually winning the Premier League, one man in particular stands out to me as the reason for that, and it's Ryan Cherki. Because, first point, I think a criticism we have had of Pep a lot recently is that his teams are so robotic. The only time he'll ever let a player play with freedom is if they're just so good, so dominant, that it actually benefits the team somehow. And, you can let me know if you can think of more, but I would say there are only 3 players Pep Guardiola has ever managed who he has allowed to have that freedom. They are Lionel Messi, the greatest player of all time, or the second greatest, depending on how you want to rank him and Ronaldo. David Silva, one of the greatest midfielders of all time for Man City, and now Ryan Cherky. Not even Kevin De Bruyne, not even like Lewandowski was given that level of freedom.
Right. I mean, I've seen people call like Doku a maverick, but that's not been consistent.
But he's been a controlled maverick. I don't see him.
I agree.
I don't see him playing with the freedom, with the driftiness that Cherky.
There was like I remember there was this one time where Pep, after a Cherky goal, I forget which game it was, he was like, I hope he can tone down on like the flair, but I really like him. Yeah. Pep was willing to give him the light of day, and
that was like what 4 or 5 months ago. Like,
right.
I think Cherky has proven time and time again he's that guy.
He is worthy of that freedom, absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, do you want to continue? Because I
yeah, I mean, both. Okay, here's the thing. Neither of these teams were perfect at all. Both of them looked rough at like different points in the game, but ultimately they went blow for blow. Some people thought Arsenal were going to hide in their shell, but they pressed well, made dangerous moments, and gave City a real game. And City found a way through it all. I think everyone on this City roster really stepped up here, besides maybe Donnarumma, but even he'd done pretty well by game's end. Again, ridiculous opener from Cherky, the exact like elite ball control that City brought him in for. O'Reilly with more smart movement. I was wondering if Doku might have trouble against Mascara, but he put in some great dribbles and passes. And Donnarumma, again, gifting Havertz that first half equalizer, put in a great save against Havertz in the second half. I think just about everyone on this team can be proud of their performance, individually and collectively as a team, in this game with like tight margins, obviously massive pressure. They found their quality. Of course, I don't expect Burnley to give City much trouble at all, so this is irrelevant to that. But in their more challenging games still, like away at Everton or hosting Villa, I think City should be confident in their ability to keep going out, find goals, and find wins, really no matter who or what they're going up against. It's just, this is a big confidence booster. That's the biggest thing. You don't need to change, Pep doesn't need to change tactics at all. It's just about the confidence, really, and it's only more and more momentum that City are getting here.
Yeah, I mean, everyone you said, like everyone you explicitly mentioned, and in fact the whole team, they should be holding their heads up high, because in a pressure match, where I would say Arsenal had their best performance in a month, despite the fact they lost, they looked good throughout. Arsenal had overwhelming pressure in the first 25-30 minutes. They weathered the storm, and then they gradually got control into the match more and more as it went along. And even though Arsenal did make a really strong late push, again, Manchester City is able to hold on. Really, I would say, even though Arsenal had a lot of attacks late, maybe one wonder strike from Eze, which you can't even really blame the back line for. Like, Ebrechi Eze is just that guy. And a missed header from Kai Havertz, which is honestly a little bit inexcusable from him. City did not actually give Arsenal a whole lot. And I would like to highlight two other players that you didn't mention. One is Nunez. I would say that at the start of the season, one of the biggest weaknesses we mentioned about Man City is that they are playing a right back. They're playing a non-right back at right back position, and that's their long-term goal. They could have signed Livramento, and they said, no, we're putting our faith in Mateus Nunez. And I would say throughout the course of the season, that has paid dividends more and more. And the other one I have to mention is, of course, the guy who scores the winning goal. It is Erling Braut Haaland, because Erling Haaland has not scored a goal in a long time in the Premier League up until this point. He was scoring goals in other competitions, but not in this one, and that was becoming an increasing concern. I'm not saying that from here on out we're going to see the version of him that's scoring hat-tricks every game like we did at the start of the season, but I think that is a very, very positive sign for Man City, who are now mostly focused on winning the Premier League. And so, of course, against Burnley, given that these matches are so close together, they're probably going to pump the brakes a little bit. They're going to chill. But I think for the future, this City squad is looking really scary. I'll just say my prediction now. I would say 2-0 to City. I think they just get the job done. They don't have to really get out of second gear too much. And I just don't see how Burnley can cause them any problems whatsoever.
Yeah, honestly, I have a 3-0 to City. I was thinking, even though they might pump the brakes here, there's just too big of a quality gap here. And
pumping
again,
the brakes means 3 instead of 5, is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Because like we've not seen any significant injuries to come out of that game. I think, well, the people who are injured for City are the same. It's, I think, Diaz and Gvardiol. That's it. Arsenal, more significant issues right now, but City are fine. And so even then, they're probably still going to go to bench. And even then, I think they beat Burnley 3-0. Because really, it's just what I was saying before. Burnley can't offer anything in attack, which means it's all going to come back to them eventually. Yeah, I think even if City go for like a largely bench-based team, they're going to score quite a lot here. So it's 3-0 for me. Could be a 3-1 to be fair, which would get you... Well, actually, no, it's not going to be a 3-1. Burnley aren't scoring.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
No matter what, I don't think Burnley is scoring. So it's like either a 2-0 or a 3-0. I'll just
maybe Donnarumma will feel bad again. You never know.
Donate him something. Well, they need that. Oh, but they need that goal diff though. So actually, I do wonder if they try and like really pump Burnley for like all they're worth here. Like just
it's possible
rack up the goal difference. Yeah,
it is possible. Yeah. Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, I'm taking a risk here with only saying 2-0.
I mean, we're not going to predict like a 5-0. That would be pretty
right. I mean,
we'll see. We'll see. This could be interesting, but I wouldn't say to watch this game though, unless you're a City fan and then you get to see a lot of goals, right? So why not?
Right.
But
that being said, though,
next game
we got Sunderland against Nottingham Forest. How are you feeling about this one?
I mean, okay, Sunderland we usually expect to be composed in their games, right? Admittedly, this last one, not so much. I think there was still a lot to like in it, though. I think they did stay largely structurally sound. Unfortunately, when they weren't, Villa were very quick to take advantage. But they were good overall, I think. And even going down 3-1 early in the second half, it didn't take too long for them to get back in the match, put on some good attacking pressure, especially toward the end, and eventually that pressure told. Quite dramatic how the goals came about, 2 in 2 minutes, but they weren't like completely out of nowhere either. There was, again, good pressure beforehand, just without good shot making, but when they did find the right chances for shots, they took both of them well. And Diarra even had a great chance right afterward to possibly give them the lead right after. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But they really grew into this game. It was great, I think. The only frustration is they came away with nothing after doing so much late on. But at home now against a side that they were pretty good in their last game, Nottingham, compared to like before that. But still, they're not going to be as clinical here as Villa was. I would back Sunderland to definitely get some actual points this time. I don't think it's going to be a loss for them. That's not in my cards.
Yeah, I would say, I think one thing that's really exciting about the Sunderland side is that they do not rate anybody. They're going to play this, they're going to press you. They're going to be physical against you, home or away. It doesn't matter if you're the worst team in the Premier League or if you're title contenders, because we saw them do this against City and Arsenal as well. They're going to play their style of football, hell or high water, and it was working. Again, it's really unfortunate for Sunderland because it's another match where they don't end up with any points, but the way they played, I mean, if you're a Sunderland fan, building for the future for this side, I think the future is very optimistic, is what I'm trying to say. Midfield, again, incredibly physical. They're playing, I think anybody on the squad, and I can say this about a lot of sides, but anybody on the squad can just have a good match in any given day. And just the fact in general that Sunderland's midfield is so strong. Right now, obviously, it's Habib Diarra and Siddiqui, but you could also play Lefay there. You could play Chris Rigg. There's just so many options for the Sunderland side. Any team is going to struggle in a midfield battle against them. Obviously, Nottingham Forest included. And so, especially at home at the Stadium of Light, with that advantage on their side, they're a very, very hard team to play against.
Yeah, and I said if Forest were going to start doing well in these next few games they've got to, the teams that are going against are pretty consistent with scoring, Sunderland included. So Forest have got to be consistent too. And they've been struggling to sustainably create chances. So I wanted to see in this last game, could they fix that here? They didn't get a shot off until the 35th minute. Ultimately, the first half was flat. It was lacking intensity. Then, of course, they really found a spark at halftime, and the game flipped very quickly. Gibbs White was outstanding. Good adjustments at the half that brought on more energy and then pushed him into positions where he could really influence the game. But still, the pattern for me here is Forest do not start games very well, and they don't consistently create pressure from the outset. Which is a problem for me because I think Sunderland at home can impose themselves early. And I'm concerned as to whether Forest can survive that first stretch if they're similarly flat. if they spend that first half just absorbing pressure the whole way through, I think there's a good chance they let the game slip away early on. If not, I think, yeah, they have the attacking threats that, let's say they get things started finally in the second half, they can make a comeback. But it depends. If Sunderland rack up 2-3 goals, I don't know. It's going to be trouble at that point for sure.
But I do think Nottingham is increasingly becoming a very tough team to knock up 2-3 goals against early, right? Their defense, I would say, has solidified a lot. And while they sometimes struggle to get into games early, that has improved a lot recently as well. And one thing I will say, I thought Chris Wood was injured. Apparently he's not. And what we saw is not only both him and Igor Jesus rotating with each other, but for 30 minutes in the second half, when they were down a goal to Burnley, they were playing two strikers at the same time. I don't think we've ever seen Nottingham Forest play two strikers, a two-striker system, since we started this channel. And despite that, it worked brilliantly. There were just too many targets for Burnley to handle. And then Morgan Gibbs-White is now randomly becoming a good finisher at the end of the season after being absolutely stinky on the ball for the entire year. It feels like for every relegation battle side, except for Tottenham, they are really clutching up, like late into the season. And so Nottingham Forest is increasingly becoming a team where you do not want to let them hang around, because the later it gets, Nuno, pulls, or sorry, not Nuno, I don't know why I said that. Vitor Pereira pulling some strings, pulling some black magic. The tricky trees are tricky for a reason, is all I'm going to say.
Fair. I think this is going to be pretty close. Like, both teams have shown they can grow into matches. They can find moments late. I want to say Sunderland, they don't go like out of their way and they outscore Nottingham like really far in that first half. I think maybe they go into halftime, it's like 1-0 to Sunderland. And Forest, I think, can find an equalizer. But somehow I really like Sunderland to get a goal even later than that. I feel like they have managed to do that in a few matches. For me, it was either between a 2-2 draw. Usually I only go 1-1s, but for me it was between a 2-2 draw and they kind of just go back and forth a bit, or Sunderland get a late winner. And I'm going to go with the late winner. It's going to be Sunderland 2-1 for me. But absolutely, like, some sort of draw could work out here as well.
Yeah, fair enough. I would say if it's a draw, it's more likely 1-1, because these are not teams that are really known for their goal scoring. And that is indeed what I have. I do have a 1-1 draw. I think as much as we obviously have to give Sunderland a lot of advantage for their home crowd, the same with like being one of the hardest stadiums to play at in the Premier League, we also have to give Nottingham Forest a buff for being in the relegation battle. Basically being in the relegation battle enough that they're fighting hard and they have confidence, but also not so much in danger that the team does have a lot of confidence, as I'm saying. I think their odds of relegation are at like something like 5% at this point after their win last week. So they're feeling good. And even a point here, that continues to make them look more and more safe. And, as the Europa League battle comes back into play, that could make the ending of this season very interesting if you are a Nottingham Forest fan.
Yeah. Okay, for our next match, we've got two teams on practically opposite ends of the European race. Villa is probably safe in one of the European competitions right now. Fulham, I think, definitely have the players to make a push, but certainly not the form at the moment, because they are further behind in that race. So with their first home game after the international break, can they turn that form around, hosting Villa?
It's a big question mark, because what we've seen so far has not been good whatsoever. Finishing and ball progression have both been questions recently. And not only have there been no goals scored by the squad since coming back from the international break, in their last match against Brentford, they did not record a shot on target. I think I said that there were going to be 4 goals in that game, and we end up getting one side not even creating any chances. So, quite bad, I would say, from Fulham. And they're lucky that it was a draw, honestly. Brentford had quite a few chances and just, for whatever reason, could not finish any of them. But yeah, can Fulham get their form back? Very possible. Like you said, they have the players there. Very strong front three. Iwobi and Sasha Lukic, Sander Berge as well.
Is Iwobi playing, actually? Because I remember seeing that he's now injured.
He's injured.
I actually want to check if this is still the case, but this is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing news about Iwobi's injury against Brentford.
Ooh,
Maybe ruled out of the season with a hamstring.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no. Now here's the thing: does that make Fulham less potent in possession or more? Because on one hand, here's one thing: I could make the argument that if Fulham are playing Lukic and Burge as their double pivot, that they'll have more control in possession and be able to generate more chances. But I could also say that if you get rid of Alex Iwobi, it removes what little bite there was left in Fulham's midfield. You can really make, I think, a case in either direction. But I think against the Villa side that just looks so dominant right now, Fulham are still very much in the European race. They could still figure things out. This Villa is not a side that you tend to figure things out against if you're a mid-table team.
Yeah. For me as well, like that last game was no doubt a flattering one. I wouldn't say it was a robbery from Brentford, but they definitely didn't deserve a point there. And I think obviously Iwobi's injury is not doing them any favors if he's not available for these next few games because it's one less option for them. But I agree with you. Even if they did play without him the whole way through, I still don't think they're beating Villa. Well, whether they have them or not, really. I think this is a really troublesome streak that Fulham's offense is having. And just for whatever reason, shit's not working out. The chance creation is not coming. And yeah, I think they don't have it in them to beat Villa. Like, it's just not there with this roster, unfortunately. Maybe a draw. I'll speak about Villa afterwards, and we'll see what happens there. But not a win for Fulham. No.
Well, for Villa, I mean, we say they always win games by one goal. It did. I mean, we were not wrong. Yeah. We were technically not wrong. We got our margin points. I'll just say that. That match though by Villa, so much I can say. I'll start with the goods because the good is their starters, and the bad is one player who did not start and ended up playing in the match. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I would say now that Villa have all of their midfield injured players back, they play so dominantly. This is the way that prime Villa likes to play. Their entire supporting cast for Ollie Watkins has been cooking. They're so dominant, so fluid, and incredibly blistering pace-wise. Buendia, Rogers, and McGinn. And another benefit to them is all three of them, their positions are interchangeable. They are constantly swapping around, and it makes them a significant headache for defenses to deal with. I would say the one potential weakness on that attack, if anything, is Ollie Watkins, which is a little bit weird to say about a player who just scored a brace. But that was a match against Sunderland where I would say he should have got a hat-trick. He should have scored more than 2 goals, in my opinion. And his clinicality, I would say, in recent matches has been a little bit of a problem. But I think with how good the supporting cast is, I'm not too worried about, again, the starters. Now, the problem child for this Aston Villa squad, I would say, is when Jadon Sancho came off the bench. And that's because while he does also bring that same attacking strength, in order for this blistering all-out attack to work, you have to have your wingers be solid, both offensively and in transition. And Jadon Sancho only fits one half of that bill. And I think it's no surprise that Sunderland get their 2 late goals to get an equalizer once he comes on. I think Fulham, they have pace, right? Again, Villa are always a hard squad to get your rhythm back against. But especially in the midweek where they'll have to be rotating, can they take advantage of when, if not Sancho, I don't want to single him out too much, but whenever those backups have to play on the wings?
Yeah, I think Villa do look, like you said, very controlling at certain stretches in the game. But that control can break down very quickly, which is what we saw here. Once Sunderland came back to their senses and they found a bit of momentum, I feel like Villa really did lose their grip fast. I'll credit them, though, for finding composure again at the very end to go and win it late. They can find those decisive moments. But it's questionable sometimes whether those moments are enough because they found those little chances like every so often throughout that game, which is how they racked up their goals. And it's like it wasn't enough, so they had to go for another at the end. It's weird with Villa because they seem usually pretty stable or at their best they have been, and now it's like you said, their attack is really going at it. But maybe that back line is a bit questionable. Still, though, I don't think Fulham can find enough goals to actually challenge Villa. Like, if Villa do find 2-3 goals, I think that's more than enough for them. And that's actually what I think is going to happen. Fulham are struggling a bit to create. I think that's only going to get worse without Iwobi. And Villa, even if they're not perfect defensively, they still have far more consistent attacking output. So I think maybe Fulham can get one at some point, but I'll go 3-1 Villa.
Fair enough.
I like the 2-goal margin. Even though it's usually not what Villa play for, I'll say they win by 2 goals here instead of 1.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I would probably have went for a scoreline like that, but because, again, it's the midweek and they're playing so close, I do think Villa will be more reserved. And they're going to be, I don't want to say more defensive, but they're going to be a lot more tempered, I think. They're not going to play as blisteringly as they did in that last match, I guess is what I want to say. And so given that and given Fulham's recent offensive woes, I don't see them breaking their goalless streak in this match. And so I'm going to say Villa do get a classic 1-goal win. They get a very calm, just 1-0 win. And then they sort of move on from that and then focus on the upcoming fixtures, the Europa League and the other league matches after that.
Fair. It's Nottingham they have in the Europa semi-final, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. I could see them resting players for sure. Because I'm sure Nottingham will take those games seriously too, even if they're in the relegation race. Both these teams want their trophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, fair enough. Okay, Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. What are you thinking here?
Well, first off, I'm thinking that I think every time that I put faith in Liverpool, they end up not winning, and then every time I say they're not going to win,
you say they'll lose, they win.
Yeah, it's very, very odd for me, I would say. I have no idea how to predict this Liverpool side at this point. What I will say, though, is Palace already don't look good in the midweeks, and it's going to be always a little bit hard to judge because we actually haven't seen them play against West Ham yet. I don't know how they're going to line up, but the fact that Adam Wharton and Maxence Lacroix are injured, to me, are very bad signs. I've already spoken like many, many times about how important Adam Wharton is to this Palace side, and especially with the defense faltering a little bit recently, I think with Lacroix out, it could become a full-on disaster very quickly. And Liverpool right now is not a team you want to be that defensively vulnerable against, because even though CoDaKrew keeps getting these phantom assists where I feel like he does nothing but then he ends up getting a goal contribution, Rio Ngamoa and Mohamed Salah have looked amazing recently. I feel like ever since Salah's retirement video, he plays liberated. And then Rio, I would say, I think the decision making could use a little bit of work, but the technical ability and the finishing and the ability to play under pressure, they're all there already for this, for Rio Ngamoa. And I do think that, especially in a midweek match, you back the team that has more depth, and that is clearly Liverpool in this case.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to draw any conclusions from this last game. It was seriously all over the place. The whole team, first 20 minutes, was trash. Backline kept getting penetrated the whole time. Of course, Mamardashvili made some great saves. I think there was some decent bit of threat from our left wing, mostly from Robbo. I didn't think it was going to be enough for us to score. I thought we were going to get pummeled. It was like you predicted 2-0, right? I was thinking that was exactly what was going to happen.
It definitely felt like it could be 2-0 at times.
Yeah. Imagine my shock when once we managed to steal the ball off of the left, it is Gakpo that puts in that pass. Which, it wasn't an outstanding pass. You're right. He has been getting a lot of GA, and a lot of the time it's not really deserved. I don't think this one was too bad, though. He then, I know at another point in the game,
I want to more so say that it's not that assist itself, but it's just that other than that one assist, he did absolutely jack shit all game.
There was one point, I'm forgetting exactly what time, where he could have put off a good pass and he went for a direct shot, and it just did nothing. So it was really that one pass that was his highlight. And then Virgil van Dijk was trash, except for when he scored the goal. So it's just, I don't know what to make of any player here, of the team in general. The only conclusion I can make, it's nothing tactically related. The only notes I can make is, well, if Mamardashvili is injured, that's not great. But also, this is just going to be an amazing confidence booster for everyone. And honestly, I'm quite happy with that on its own. Not having really any tactical conclusions, which is a concern, because we know Slot is kind of off it in terms of tactics, just generally, and we could use whatever intel we can get. But if it's just confidence for the team, I'm pretty happy with it by itself.
Yeah, I would say that is obviously a big factor. The one issue is, of course, Mamardashvili, I would say, has papered over a lot of your defensive vulnerabilities, especially in terms of crosses.
In that game as well.
Yeah, but just in general. But through crosses is not really how Palace plays. They like to overload the midfield more. And I would say that, especially, again, given it's a midweek, I feel like Palace always got a huge debuff in that. I am going to back you guys this time. I think you can get a solid win. And I'll say 2-0 in your favor.
Okay, I actually had a 2-1 this time around. But yeah, I think Palace are going to give us some trouble just because I think just about any team could give us trouble except literally like Burnley and Wolves. Our defense is that unstable that I'm sure at some point we can let up a good opening. It could honestly be like my choices were I didn't go a 2-0. I said it was going to be like a 1-0 or a 2-1 because I think it is absolutely possible that we give up one very good opening and Palace just does not take it right. So it could be scoreless as well, and I think 2-0 is fair too. But I'm just going to say it's 2-1. I think maybe we score those 2 goals first and Palace finds something late on, but they don't quite make a comeback because, like you said, they have that debuff. If it's Palace midweek, I don't trust them to come back from 2 down.
Right. Well, That was the Merseyside derby. Now get ready for the David Moyes derby. West Ham against Everton. What do you think?
Yeah. Not much for me to say about the Hammers here, since like with Palace, we're just going off of like their previous games, basically. What I will say is like against Wolves, I'm just recapping basically. They weren't fully in control, but once they did find like some momentum and good chances in the second half, they were very ruthless with them. The whole game, they were able to tilt it hard in their favor. Again, helped along by the fact that it's Wolves, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But they really did tilt that momentum, and their scoring finally matched the intensity that they were actually bringing to the game. Castellanos gave them goals to go with his great work rate, and you've always got Bowen to drive them forward through their games. I think they've been very aggressive, bringing a lot of energy, but we haven't necessarily seen that reflect in the score lines. This game, I think it did. I mean, West Ham are clearly playing to survive, and their directness, that willingness to force moments, is going to make them awkward for any team to play, especially at the London Stadium, which, though I'm sure it was a great place to play away a few months ago, is probably terrible to visit now. Because they've also got their fans behind them. They were boycotting not that long ago. The fans were boycotting the club, but I think this push has probably changed minds for.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how bad you may be, there will always be a Tottenham that is worse. That's the story of the season in the Premier League, and you have to give full credit to Nuno and the West Ham squad because they've taken full advantage, and they are now very deservingly, at least for right now, safe from relegation. Look, I would say that West Ham, a problem I've seen them have all season is that they often struggle to get into matches early, but if they can be defensively solid and just stay in the game for the first, let's say, half hour, they become a lot dangerous afterwards. So, for example, a good example, Wolves were not able to do anything at all in those first 30 minutes, and then because of that, West Ham's attack is overwhelming. I could say a similar story against Leeds, where Leeds do score 2 goals, but I would say that, I mean, it's a common story for these teams that are in relegation battles. They get a buff to their finishing if they have confidence in themselves. And that's what allowed West Ham to score those 2 goals against Leeds as well. So I look at this match in particular. Again, midweeks always make things a little bit more confusing. But you do have to consider Everton, aerially a little bit questionable, and West Ham love the cross. Jared Branthwaite, according to David Moyes, he says he is worried about him. Does that mean he's playing or not? We don't know. But if he's not, I do think that West Ham can take advantage. And I would say the longer, if Everton let them stay in the game, the later it gets, the more dangerous the Hammers will look.
Yeah, I agree. They've got to score quickly. And Everton, I thought they were pretty damn good against us, even if they lost. But like, again, there were chances that they could have taken, and they did not take. Beto really had to put Everton up 1-0 there. Would have upped the atmosphere in the stadium so much. I know they were close to the opener with the Njai goal ultimately disallowed. But imagine how much the floodgates would have opened up if Beto had scored that goal first. Still, without that, Everton were consistently in the game. They were creating great chances throughout, and I think they can do that here again. It's just, can they take enough of those moments? Do we see another game here against West Ham where they're good for long stretches, but they don't really fully take control? I do think they score. I'm confident they'll find a goal. After today's game, I've got to say they are menacing to play against. It's just, honestly, I think it is a little hard to call. Can they do just enough? Because West Ham, again, are going to be pushing for that whole game. So you've got to keep pace. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think very fair points. And I would say the fact that Everton struggled with finishing against you guys, because of what I've said about this West Ham side, they're not a team who you want to let stay in the match. And so what I think is going to happen is, especially away from home, Everton will dominate chances. They'll get a lot of them. They'll go ahead, but they won't be able to see the game out and let's say pull West Ham out of the equation with a few more goals. And so I would say right at the death, I think if Brentford is injured, which I think is more likely than not, given the way Moyes is describing it, I will say a cross comes in and a Castellanos or a Mavropanos or one of the other big guys that West Ham have aerially does get the equalizer and gets them another crucial point towards safety.
That's exactly what I have. It is a 1-1 draw. I think, West Ham are going to be pushing them the whole way through, and I don't necessarily trust West Ham to score on all of their chances either. It's just they really will be pushing. They will keep going, creating more and more chances. They're not going to get discouraged if that stuff fails to go in. Everton, I think they can absolutely score in that first half, but if they try and build off of that and it doesn't work for a long time, I think eventually they will give up. And that is when I can absolutely see West Ham slipping an equalizer in. So it's going to be 1-1 for me, which is unfortunate because I have very few outcomes that are different for me right now. So that's not really how I want it.
Well,
but I really do think
that's what happens when you're co-hosting.
I really do think the 1-1 draw works out here, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then next up, this is an interesting match. Two teams that are going to be facing each other again next season potentially.
What a shitty game this is.
Yeah.
Wolves shortly just look completely and utterly out of it right now, right? Why wouldn't they be? They're practically relegated. They might be officially relegated.
They might be officially relegated by the time you're watching this, because if West Ham get a point.
That's also true. That could break it completely. But even if not that, they could be, since this is later in match week 34, they could be relegated before this game is even played out. Wolves v Tottenham. They were all right to start against Leeds, but as I said about them in our last episode, they cannot handle momentum swings. Leeds took control of the game at one point, scored once, and Wolves changed nothing, so they scored twice. Wolves can find moments, and they did create a few, I think, in the second half here, but it's just nothing consistent enough to easily find goals, or also, more importantly, keep themselves from constantly getting shot at. And maybe they show a little more life at home than at Elland Road, but still, there's just not much substance here with this team. Yeah. I mean, as bad as Tottenham are, it's Wolves. Come on.
True. I will say the one saving grace for them is that I do think whenever teams are mathematically relegated, which is probably what's going to happen here, they do actually get a little bit of a buff because they play completely liberated.
Yeah, we saw that buff they had before, right?
Right.
When they're we're done.
This is what we saw with Leicester and Ipswich last season, I think, quite notably. And so they could just be playing out of pure spite to relegate Tottenham, which would be quite funny if they all of a sudden become good again, just to fuck with Tottenham fans. About Tottenham, though, things are not looking good for them after that match against Brighton. I would say that the fact that Xavi Simons played as well as he did is a testament to De Zerbi's system working quickly. One issue, though, he's injured. Who else is injured? Christian Romero, a stalwart in their back line. And if you want to see just how much of a disadvantage losing him is, I would say that it's a very stupid error by Kevin Danso, failing to clear the ball away, late in stoppage time, which allows Brighton to get an equalizer. Those 2 points that Tottenham lost through having Kevin Danso playing as a center back, I mean, we will never know until the end of the season. That could very well be the moment that relegates Tottenham Hotspur. And with a player like Christian Romero, with both his physicality his ball IQ, and his just experience in those situations, I can guarantee you that if he was playing in that match, he does not make that mistake. And Tottenham end up winning that match. And so it's hard to understate the loss that these two players have because, again, like, Xavi Simons is obviously amazing. Who else was doing anything for them offensively? It felt like it was all through Xavi Simons. And so losing him in this match, I think if I'm Tottenham, I would be very concerned, to be quite honest. And one other thing that concerns me more is the lack of mentality, right? They have, for a while, I felt like there's been no faith among the players about that they can stay up. And now that the walls are closing in, now that they are mathematically likely, Opta has them at a 56% chance of relegation. And we've talked about how that model doesn't even account for personality and the psychological effects of being a Tottenham player right now. That on one end, and Wolves being motivated on the other end, 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw against Wolves.
This is a must-win. This is a win. This is a match that Tottenham, 1, must win, and 2, should win. And that's why I think they won't.
Okay. If they don't win this game, I'm saying they should forfeit their next 4 matches and just relegate themselves. Yeah. I think that.
If you're a Tottenham fan and they don't win this match, you should boycott the team.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure if Xavi Simons is injured. I know he was cramped at like points within the game. I do.
Yeah, but the only reason he didn't get subbed off was because they were out of substitutions.
Because they didn't have anyone. That's true. So
he can't play. Because we saw what he was looking like for the last like 15 minutes of that game. You can't play a 90 minutes like that. Like that's not.
He's also like. Besides physical injuries, I'm sure the guy is clinically depressed now. I mean, look at his fucking face every time these guys lose, man. It's genuinely sad. I am happy to see Tottenham go down. Not even that I necessarily hate Tottenham on a personal level like you do, Darian. But like I'm happy to see them go down just for the hell of it. But I feel terrible for Xavi Simons every time.
I'm not feeling as good about Tottenham going down now because we won't get to play them again next season.
No free points.
Yeah.
But
isn't it crazy that when we went down last season, we actually beat Tottenham in the head-to-head. We got 4 out of 6 points against them last year. That's how shit they were already. Anyway,
so they're beat by a team that's now... Does that mean Tottenham then go down to the 3rd tier next season?
Yeah, probably.
Are they going to follow in your footsteps?
I mean, they're already so shit and they're going to lose all their good players. Because who's the fuck's going to want to play for Tottenham in the championship?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Xavi Simons comes on or not. Even if he does, I do agree. Romero being gone is a big problem, and it's going to continue to cause him a lot of issues. He hasn't been super consistent, but again, you rarely need him in these games where Tottenham, I don't think, are ever going to have a super big, super comfortable lead. You need him to help you like hold on to those 3 points in any game whenever you take a lead. And they, again, like I said with Brighton, it was frustrating for them that they had to come back and equalize both times. It's way worse for Tottenham that they took these leads and it's like, well, you might get 3 points. You might just escape the drop zone. Nope, not happening. It's not possible with this current lineup. It's what everyone says, right? It's just they don't have like the brass for it. We don't have the players that are experienced enough in these sorts of like scrappy situations. No one here came here for a relegation race. And Romero might genuinely be, I think he is really the most fitting player on this team, if anyone, to like help them through a relegation battle. He's gone. He's like genuinely the one person I can think of there. So it's done.
Gone for the season, right?
Yeah, I think so. I have still a Tottenham win here, but to be clear, like I think they still get relegated at the end of the season. It's just I don't think they get relegated now because if this is a draw, like you said, I think it's done. Just pack your bags.
Yeah,
pack your bags at that point.
And even if they do win, all West Ham need to do is get a point in either tomorrow or in their match against Everton, which I think we both have them drawing both, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that would mean, again, if we're all correct, this is still Tottenham in 18th, even if we win.
Right.
So, not looking good.
But again, if they draw, it's just pack your bags for the last 4 match weeks and let some concerts come in. Then you get some rent money, at the very least. There's no point if it's lose
this match, start doing halftime shows. Like, start inviting KSI to perform the thick of it and because how else are you going to even sell tickets at this point?
Isn't KSI an Arsenal fan?
He is?
I think he is, no?
Oh,
well, then again, they brought in Thomas Frank, so
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
exactly.
they're fine with Arsenal fans.
They're completely shameless, bro. They signed De Zerbi as their manager. They're completely shameless at this point. Like, there's no sense of ethics or unwritten rules that Tottenham even care about at this point.
Okay, we now get to discuss the best match of last match week from the other perspective. We've got now Arsenal versus Newcastle. What are you thinking here?
I mean, first off, this is so mentally crushing for Arsenal. Like, it's genuinely just sad if you're an Arsenal fan at this point, because first off, for some context, let me just throw some stats. No team has been second place in the Premier League 4 times in a row in the Premier League era. The last time that happened in the top tier of English football in general was during the Great Depression, from 29 to 32.
I'm honestly surprised that's even happened at another point in English football. I thought this would be a first for Arsenal, but okay, I guess they're second to being second 4 times in a row. What the fuck, man? What?
God.
No. Come on, Arsenal. Come on.
No, that's so
you
bad.
Can't do
that's
this.
so
Just
bad.
Drop.
No.
Drop down to third at this point. Give Man U second. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh my goodness.
Don't be second to being second 4 times. Come on.
Oh,
okay.
God. Oh no. Hey, what I will say though is that that was their best performance in a while.
That's true. Yeah. It is.
I mean, they held their own against City. I thought that as soon as City scored that first goal, because I had 2-0, I thought, yeah, they're just going to welter away, they're going to die. They kept fighting that entire match. There were times where they were on the back foot, but their defensive line held up well. I think there was one mistake. For some reason, the center backs insisted on playing out the back, which I don't get why you would do against a high pressing team like City. But other than that, I mean, I don't really have too many complaints about the back line. I mean, especially that first goal from Turkey. What are you supposed to do? I feel like even if you try to tackle him, he's so drifty that you might just end up conceding a penalty. So it's just like, whatever, we take those. What can we even do from an Arsenal perspective? And I would even say, not only are they playing better, Arteta made some smart tackle adjustments, in my opinion. I think playing Kai Havertz as a midfielder for large parts of the season was a terrible strategy. It's funny how much credit can you give him for the goal? Sure, but he's an out-and-out striker. Like, he won every aerial duel today against Man City, and we know how good Man City's defenders are. He was physical. This was the Kai Havertz that we saw playing as a striker in previous seasons. It's so, like, for me, the problem was never about Havertz himself, because we know the quality of player he can be. It was Arteta was just completely misusing him. And unfortunately for Arsenal fans, he figured out the issue too late. If he just figured that out one game earlier and they won that match against Bournemouth, the league situation is completely different for Arsenal right now. But I do think, if you're Arsenal, like, it's not all hope was lost, because again, they can still win on goal differential. City are still 1 goal behind, and I mean, even though they'll probably take the lead after their game in hand, it's not going to be a huge lead. And so, if you're Arsenal, you're thinking, hey, it's not impossible that we outscore them. May as well try. And they're at home, and they're playing a side that is very defensively leaky right now.
Yeah, I think that is what they have to go for here. They created, again, a lot of great chances in open play, which is like, of course, like, I've clowned them for that naturally, because, like, what was it, 0.17 or 0.18 XG from open play they had against Bournemouth, and Bournemouth had like 1.2 from open play in that same game. It was terrible, but it was massive improvement, which really you had to have a massive improvement or you'd be absolutely cooked here against City. But they did manage that. It's just they couldn't take those great chances that they had and take them quite right. Some of them, like Eze's shot, were great just for getting to goal in the first place. Others, like Havertz's effort for his second, well, they had to be taken better. I think Arsenal did play quite well here. It just wasn't well enough, and those few like barely missed opportunities are what ultimately cost them. Now, Darian, I know you've talked about teams with games close together, and if one goes poorly, they might not have time to recover, and maybe they start spiraling. Could happen here, but I will say Arsenal at least have a bit of time before, well, honestly, not even a bit of time, it's practically a whole week, because this match against Newcastle is on Saturday. And also, they're playing against a team that practically is in a spiral already. We can talk about Newcastle, but like they are they're having it real rough right now. So even if Arsenal aren't perfect, I think they have the edge here. I'll go ahead and say that I think they do win. It's just how much by how much. That is the big thing, because with City likely to tie Arsenal in points, only a 1 goal gap and goal difference. The question now, I think, is Arsenal going to do enough in their games in terms of scoring? And they really have to break out of their shell. Their usual playstyle of Harambo is not going to cut it anymore. They can try it in the UCL, not here.
Yeah.
Not in the Prem.
Right. Look, I think Arsenal and Tottenham are the two sides who, let's say the football world, especially on social media, are talking about, psychologically, how psychologically damaged they are. Nobody's really talking about it, but Newcastle should be in that category as well.
True.
Because they are a squad that has tons of quality. Up until very recently, we're still alive in the European battle, and now they are completely dead out of the water. Bruno G is back, and his leadership, I think, can help this squad somewhat, but it's just too little too late. I think there's no morale for this Newcastle side as well, and they might even be feeling worse than Arsenal, because at least if you're Arsenal, you're still in with a chance. They're still the statistical favorites, Arsenal, on Opta, which I disagree with, but I think it does show that, there's still something there to be won if you're Arsenal. Whereas I think Tottenham's completely hopeless, especially given I don't think they're winning against Wolves. And Newcastle are completely hopeless, just statistically. Because there's so many teams. Some of the teams are inevitably going to slip up that are ahead of them. They're not all going to split up. They're not all going to screw up. There's 8 of them. There's just no way if you're a Newcastle fan at this point. So, yeah, I'll just say I think Arsenal can get a solid bounce back. I think they get a 2-0 win. I don't see how Newcastle can really, especially away from home, provide too much of an offensive threat.
Yeah, I went with a 3-1 Arsenal. I did like that 2-goal margin. I do think Arsenal are going to play more open, obviously, and they have to get a bit used to that. And in that time, I could see Newcastle scoring. But yeah, this is going to be quite the comfortable win for Arsenal, which it really has to be. And it's just with Newcastle, whether they get the opener or they get an equalizer, they've always got to lose games late, right? They lose their leads late on. In this case, I'm not sure they'll have a lead to lose, and I'm not sure they're going to be losing by 1 goal. I think Arsenal are going to have to milk them for that goal difference, and it'll probably work out in Arsenal's favor because, Newcastle are just that in the dumps right now. Especially if they're playing away, they have to go to Arsenal Stadium. No, it's going to be definitely an Arsenal win for me. And I'll say 3-1, but 2-0 absolutely could be as well.
Yeah, well, then that brings us to our last match of the week, and it is Manchester United against Brentford.
Yeah. I was really worried going into that game yesterday about Man U's backline. Maguire and Martinez suspended. De Ligt been gone. Lenny Yoro got injured. I think that news came out the day after we recorded our predictions, the same day we uploaded them. So, now you're telling me they're going to Stamford Bridge with Mazraoui and Heaven as their center back pairing. I had Chelsea drawing Man U. In the back of my mind, I was thinking Chelsea maybe could win this now. But Aiden Heaven, what a G. United did not create much at all. And for long stretches, Chelsea had that territorial pressure, but that calm defending from Aiden Heaven let them stay in the game all the way through long enough to eventually get what they needed. And we were still able to see the third man runs in the wide channels, Bruno drifting right and releasing runners, Mainu helping them play through the lines, all again helped by the fact that they don't got to worry about, are our center backs going to screw up and we're suddenly going to get scored on completely out of the blue. And now we have to play even more attacking. There was never any hesitation, I think, though, from this Man U attack. They were able to play patiently, comfortably, again, because that backline was so great, despite all the issues they could have had, really, with the lineup. It's United are not at their peak, but it seems like whatever issues they've got right now, they're able to work through them. There's a lot of resilience in this team, and they can get through, I think, just about any game, whether it's comfortable or not. They can go for a win in just about any match, and they, I think, should trust themselves for 3 points here too. Even if it comes late again, I think they will have that energy and that confidence to go through the whole 90 minutes, and they will be playing for that win.
And defensively, obviously, we have to give a lot of credit to Aiden Heaven, who he's playing beyond his years, honestly. He's so composed. And as well, this difference between Manuel Ugarte and Kobe Manu. I mean, Kobe Manu once again highlighting that because he had a really good game, I would say. He was stable defensively, and he is part of what allowed Bruno Fernandes, in particular, to be so strong. Like you were saying, Heaven, Casemiro, and Kobe Manu giving Bruno a lot of assurance that he can go up and be forward. And I feel like even as United's front three has been faltering a bit since the international break, the one guy who has still been hitting for them is Bruno Fernandes. He's got an assist in his last 2 matches, and right now he is 2 assists from tying the Premier League all-time record, and thus 3 assists away from breaking it with 5 games left to go. On his current form, he is going to break that record. And just with the trust that he has in his back line, the ability that he has to like bomb up the pitch, create open spaces, and put balls in behind, I know the quality that United's front three has. And there have been periods of time where they've not looked good, but they always got back into form, at least one of them, and they help each other out, don't they? So if I'm a United fan, I'm honestly not too worried right now. Like, you know that your squad can come back, especially given, I mean, so many teams are playing midweeks. This match is next Monday. They lucked out, and United are really bad in midweeks, and they don't have to worry about that whatsoever. So lots of positives, I would say, for United, both sides of the pitch.
Yeah, true. They could even deal with some of those injuries like Lenioro. Though honestly, if they want to play Heaven again, he might not be half bad there. Brentford, bit of a tough stretch right now. I think the underlying play is mostly fine, but yeah, the results are just starting to flatten out for them clearly. 5 league draws now in a row. Against Fulham, they were the better side. Thiago was quieter than usual. Fulham, I think, handled them well, but the Bees still made enough chances to win. And on another day, maybe they finish better and they do win. But these chances for another day we'd win sort of results are very much running out if they want to make Europe. They can't keep having these kinds of games. Again, it's 5 in a row. You have to wonder how long this continues. I think 1 or 2 more of these, and that is maybe even the Conference League spot gone, assuming say Everton or Bournemouth continue to do well as they have been.
Brighton, Brentford, Sunderland.
Right.
So many teams that could do it.
It's only Fulham could be questionable now, and Newcastle are basically definitively out of the race. Everyone else is a competitor. And Brentford, again, cannot afford to just get a single point from every match. There will be teams to get ahead of them, I'm sure. They were sorely missing the ruthlessness in the final action, maybe because Thiago couldn't give it to them. He's been good, but they are maybe a bit over-reliant on him for that finishing touch, which meant in a game where it seemed like, to me at least, they could easily break that streak of draws, they couldn't. So coming into this next game versus United, I trust that their creatives can find some clear openings. But unfortunately, I think, again, they're going to have to rely on Thiago for that finishing touch. And now I think Maguire's back from suspension, so he gets into the back line probably. This is only going to be a more difficult defense that Brentford has to deal with. If they couldn't somehow get Thiago free against Fulham, is it going to happen here? I don't think so. Going from no goals to scoring away at Old Trafford, no easy feat.
Oh yeah, and also Lenny Euro. We don't know, but given how long there's between matches, there's also a chance that he comes back too. So that would be the full starting center back pairing for United back, potentially at least. And I agree with you. It is continued strength from the midfield and the creatives, but not from the offense. And one player I want to shout out in particular, especially in this last few matches where Jordan Henderson has been injured, is Matthias Jensen. Because this guy's been good all season, but he stepped up to another level of filling in the shoes for such an important player for them, more sort of morale-wise. It feels like Brentford always have a constantly regenerating lab where they get new creative playmaking midfielders every season, and they somehow manage to pull strings together. They can lose a Christian Norgard, for example, as they did to Arsenal, and then they can spawn a Jordan Henderson, and Matthias Jensen hits another level. But like you said, outside of Igor Thiago, who you can isolate, you can focus on him defensively, the other attackers, they are strong, they can create chances, and they can especially create penalties, but their finishing is not that great. I would say Dango Uratora's decision-making has been a little bit questionable, especially in that match against Fulham. There were maybe 1 or 2 dribbles where he should have released the ball, whether it be passing or shooting earlier, rather than trying to just dribble past the entire back line. And so I do think you can very reasonably question if Brentford's attack has sort of dipped a bit from its form a few weeks ago. And I would also say they're great at set pieces and throws, of course. And I do think if it was Mazraoui, especially playing as a right back, that'd be a huge problem. But Harry Maguire's specialty is aerial defenses. And so him being back, you don't want to see that if you're a Brentford fan. And so with all of those things being said, I think Brentford's midfield is strong enough that they can score a goal. But Bruno Fernandes and this United side just feel inevitable to me right now. I think they'll score more, and I'm going to say United win this 2-1.
Okay, fair. I mean, for me, it was between a 2-0 and a 2-1. But I honestly think that Brentford, again, for however many chances they did create against Fulham, they didn't find anything. I think they're going to have more trouble creating chances here. I think they're going to have more trouble getting Igor Thiago free. And so, for that reason, I'm just going to say they don't score. I think it is possible they find one goal. Scoring, I'm no doubt, will be very difficult for them, and I definitely do not expect over a goal for them. But I'm going to say 2-0. I think they are just going to have that much trouble against this United side. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, then, that's our week done. How are you feeling? Are you nervous? Are you nervous about being the Arsenal of this Premier League prediction competition?
Let's see. I mean, it is a problem that my predictions are not too far off yours at the moment. But I mean, it's a midweek. I feel like some of my results are a bit out there, but like the ones that are different from yours. But it's a midweek, so maybe that.
The out there prediction being predicting Tottenham to win a match. That's quite out there.
To not draw the Wolves. To not draw the Wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 points is not too bad. If I get lucky, I can make up based on the differences we have here. It could be like 4 or 5, like you had. I'm not going to say that's likely to happen, but maybe I can draw by the end of this week. I think
things are very volatile because I do think, like the last 2 weeks, we've done pretty good collectively, but it's always hard to predict well in midweeks because people are tired. There's rotations, and you can never predict how that affects teams perfectly.
I mean, we of course don't have a game here that we can't even predict based on.
Yeah, exactly. We don't even have the full data.
And we don't know lineups for a lot of this. Obviously, we're not going to know who's going to be on for Man U v Brentford when it's literally more than a week from now,
right?
As we're recording. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. And I'll hope that I can at least draw points with you by the end of this, and we'll see how it goes from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
thank you for watching through to the end, and it's going to be a while. I think, Darian, you said we might do a league overview potentially before
because
the next
match day, there's breaks in between the weeks. It's possible.
Right. But yeah, definitely once this very interestingly scheduled match week ends by next Monday, we will have a new set of predictions out for you guys to watch.
And the UCL semis, of course.
That's also true. Lots more videos to come from the CoDaKrew. Subscribe if you haven't, and yeah, stay tuned for new uploads. Have a good day.
See ya.